we'll get Mr. Hanlon back straight away.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if we can. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hanlon? Very good. Just settle yourself down and then straight
Hanlon.
away, Mr. Millett.
Yes, Mr. Hanlon, thank you for coming back. I don't intend to keep you there for much longer. Can I ask you to look, please, at your statement at page 8 and look at halfway down the page where you say, once we had cleared the boards. Do you see that?
Yes.
Once we cleared the boards, we left them. It was now a little less cluttered in the lobby as they were only working off one board. So did you go back down to the lobby?
After we cleared the boards, yes.
After you'd cleared the boards. What were the conditions like down there at that time? Do you remember?
Clear, I don't think there was any smoke that I can remember.
Right. And what was happening in the lobby at that time?
It just seemed to be a congregation of BA wearers. That's where everyone was coming in.
Right. Did you see anybody in the lobby recording information, FSG information, in any way?
Not that I remember. I know they were, but I don't know whether they were at that point. But not that I remember.
Okay, well, we'll come back to it very shortly. You then, at the bottom of page 8, describe two casualties coming into the lobby. You think a mum and a young girl. You say Nick Barton took either the mum or her young girl out of the front entrance door to the LAS, and crew manager Batcheldor from Fulham took the other person. My question is, did you see where they went?
Out the main entrance.
After that?
No.
No. Did you find out what happened to the casualties?
I believe they took them to the LAS.
Right. You don't know?
Not specifically.
Okay, then if you go to the top of page 9, you say, after explaining or describing the burst hose, you say, I dumped my set on North Kensington's machine that was parked near the front. And you heard they needed another entrance, you say, to get in. And you say, just picking it up, at the end of the second line, you say, I heard over the radio that they are looking for another way to get out of the building because they couldn't use the front entrance anymore. Did you say, I heard over the radio, so was your radio functioning at that point?
Thinking about that, I don't know whether I heard it or I saw Firefighter Broderick was doing that.
Right. What I'm trying to get an idea of is how well your fireground radio was working at that time.
I have no recollection whether it was working or not, to be honest.
Because when you say I heard over the radio,
yeah,
that would indicate that the radio was working.
I couldn't 100% say whether I heard that or I saw him from the inside trying to break out.
Right. Then halfway down, page 9, you say you were joined by firefighter Wayne Archer, who'd been on the pump with me that night. We noticed somebody had jumped and landed on the playground. I had seen a blur and heard a thud. It was going so fast I knew it wasn't a piece of debris. He landed around 10 metres from me, just inside of the playground. I turned around and saw what it was. Just to ask you about that. Were you with firefighter Archer at that time?
I believe so, yes.
Where exactly were you standing, do you know?
A rough guess, in between the building and the start of the playground on the west side of the tower.
And how far to the side, north or south, do you know?
I'd say nearer the south, no, definitely nearer the south side than the north side.
And how long was it, roughly, since you left the bridgehead that you saw that happen?
I was roughly, I don't know, it took us a long time to break in to, I could only guess. Half an hour, but that's a complete stab in the dark.
Sure. And then on page 10, if you just go to that in the middle, or rather the top of the page, the first paragraph, in fact, where we start, I think. So we went back into the building through the hole we'd made in the surgery. The internal door had been put through from the surgery to the lobby, and it was now the main way we were going to be getting people in and taking people out. So just in summary, you created a new main entrance to the lobby, had you, breaking through the hole in the west wall?
There was like, slatted vents that that were broken out, and then somebody put through the door from the lobby into the surgery. Right. So there was a way out now to the west side of the.
And where did the slatted vents, once you'd taken them out of the west wall, bring you out onto? If you were coming out of the building through that hole that had been left by removing the slatted vents, where would that bring you out to? Opposite
the playground, but nearer the south side than the north side of the building.
Okay. And in the second paragraph on page 10, you say in the fourth line, the bridgehead must have been moved down to the ground floor as well, because all BA crews were lining up inside with the EDBA wearers queuing up inside the surgery. Now we have a rough time for the bringing of the bridgehead down to the ground floor of about 03:08 a.m. Does that trigger a recollection in terms of time for you? Okay, would that seem about right, or am I? As you say,
would have no clue whether that was. Sorry.
Okay. Did you? Do you know who was in charge of the bridgehead at this point, when it had been moved down to the ground floor and you came in?
As far as I knew, it was Watch Manager O'Keefe, but yeah, as far as I knew, I didn't pay attention to who was in charge. But he was the last person that I knew was in charge.
Right. Did you see O'Keefe on the bridgehead at that time when it was on the ground floor?
Yeah.
You did? And you don't know who else was with him?
No. I've said in my statement that...
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the bottom of page 10, you say, we were asking the conscious casualties what flat they were from. Is there anyone else in there? We were then shouting this information to Glyn Williams, the watch manager from Fulham, and he was writing this information on the wall by the front entrance. So, whereabouts, to the best of your recollection, was Mr. Williams standing when he was doing that writing?
If you were to walk in the original entrance, on that wall to the left, before you got to the entrance to the surgery.
I see. And how far, when you saw him doing that, was he from the bridgehead entry, sorry, the BA entry control? Or the bridgehead control, whichever you like to call it. I
think when the bridgehead was up on the mezzanine, I vaguely remember it being up there, then it was 20 foot away, and then when it moved down to the bottom of the staircase in the glass entry, they were probably 5 metres away.
Right. And what sort of information was Mr. Williams writing up on the wall? Do you remember?
No, he was writing the information that we shouted at him, but I believe himself, Watch Manager Watson and Watch Manager O'Keefe were dealing with fire survival guidance.
Right, and can you give us an idea of the kind of information that he was writing up?
From myself, that I was given. We were asked,
he was writing out, you were shouting, but what was he writing?
What flat, what floor, how many people, was there anyone left?
Right. Now, can I just show you a photograph to see if you can help with it? If you could please be shown DEG1, which is MET 000156642. I just want to see whether what I'm about to show you is the kind of thing that you say you saw Mr. Glyn Williams recording on the wall. That's a photograph, in fact, taken by Daniel Egan, a previous witness, and taken at, I think, an earlier time in the evening. When I say earlier time in the evening, we're not exactly sure when, but at an earlier stage in the evening than the time we think the bridgehead was moved down to the ground floor. We're just trying to explore this. But just looking at that picture, is that kind of thing familiar to you?
No, when I said I was shouting, I wasn't going over to him and looking at the wall. I was going straight out the surgery door. So, as I was passing him, I was shouting the information to him. I don't believe that I ever went up to the wall and looked at the wall. Right.
Did you see the wall and what he was writing on the wall at any stage?
I never paid any attention to what he was writing.
Right. Okay. And looking at the kinds of information we see recorded on that picture, sorry, just press this a little bit. You can see floor and flat and other information. Was that the kind of information that you were giving Glyn Williams when you were shouting at him?
Because you don't really understand. You're asking me to interpret that?
No, I'm not. No. I'm asking you whether or not that was the kind of information, floor, flat,
yes.
Conditions.
Not conditions.
Not conditions.
Just the occupants.
Right. And you were getting that information from people coming down the tower, were you?
Yes.
Right. Were you getting that kind of information from anywhere else?
No.
Okay. And had anybody asked you to collate the information in that way, or was it just something you did on the spur of the moment yourselves?
The best thing to do.
Okay. And who else was helping you in that effort?
There was Firefighter Archer and Firefighter Broderick from Gulf 33 Kensington.
Right. There's a Broderick and a Broderick.
There's two Brodericks.
Yes. Which, is he the one without the E? Broderick.
Oh, he's the one from Kensington.
Okay. All right. Right. And how long were you doing that for, do you think, shouting the information?
It seemed like hours, but...
Right. Just a few final questions. You say at the foot of page 12, if I can just show you that, after the reference to Danny Cotton walking into the lobby, you say, apparently radio communications were difficult, but I didn't need to use the radio. When you say apparently radio communications were difficult, did anybody tell you that radio communications were difficult?
That's kind of the rumour that I'd heard, that because there was so much radio communication on our radio, it's very hard for one person to finish a sentence before somebody else cuts in.
Yes.
Yeah, so I believe those were the problems.
So you believe those were problems? Did anybody tell you?
Not specifically, I just knew there was radio communication problems.
Yeah, where did you learn that from?
Just from general chit-chat with...
General chit-chat, okay. You also say... I couldn't tell you what the specific problems were. I also believe there was a firefighter lift, but I don't believe it was working. Did anybody tell you it wasn't working?
I couldn't say 100% that when we went in, initially I was told, but I learned later that it wasn't working.
You learned later. Who did you learn that from?
Again, general kind of talk about the incident.
You say there you call it a firefighter lift. Did you know yourself at the time what features the lift or lifts at Grenfell Tower had for firefighting?
No.
Mr. Hanlon, thank you very much. I have no further questions for you. Mr. Chairman, I have no no further questions. I don't know whether there may be one or two others.
Do you need to take a moment?
I think there may be a moment. I can see a signal, unlike Nelson.
Just have to wait a minute to sort this out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Freeman. No, I've got no further questions.
No, well, I haven't got any questions, so Mr. Hanlon, it just remains for me to thank you very much indeed for coming to give your evidence, and it will be very useful to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Right, you go to the usher.
Thank you.
And I think we need a moment for reorganisation before the next witness. Is that right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, perhaps 5 minutes.
Yes.
No more than 5 minutes.
I'll rise now then for
Thank
5
you.
minutes. We can get it done. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Millett.
I now call Mr. Secrett.
Good, thank you. Yes. Yes, you'd like to swear the witness. Thank you.
Repeat after me. I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly
declare and affirm
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Secrett. Now, you prefer to give your evidence standing up?
Yes, please.
Well, if at any stage you change your mind, just indicate. That'll be fine.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Secrett, good afternoon.
Hello.
Can I just say, first of all, thank you very much for coming here to give evidence, to assist the inquiry in its investigations. We do very much appreciate it. It is a very great assistance to us.
That's okay.
My questions are intended to be short and simple. Sometimes they don't turn out that way. If you have any difficulty understanding my question or don't hear it properly, please just say, and I'll put it a different way, or I'll speak louder.
Okay.
If you need a break at any stage, then just indicate and we can have a break.
Okay.
We will probably break before or in 1 hour, if that's
Okay.
convenient.
Should we look for a convenient point around 3:15 or between 3:15 and 3:30?
3:15, that's right. That's 50 minutes from now. So
Okay.
it sounds like a long time, but I hope it's not too bad. Can I just ask you, first of all, to give us your full name?
Christopher Martin Secrett.
Okay. And you've done a statement. In the bundle in front of you, which is a little blue file, there should be a written version of your statement at tab 9A, dated the 6th of February 2018. And we also have it up on the screen. If you prefer to use it in the written version or printed version, we can do that, but normally we've been working from what's on the screen on your right, on the desk, or up on the wall.
Okay.
The Met reference to that is MET 000-10105. And with that is your contemporaneous notes as CMS1, which is MET 0005384, which is at tab 9B of your file. And then you've also got three other exhibits, CMS2, 3, and 3 again. One is illegible and one is clear, but they're both different documents. They are MET 000-13086, 13085, and 15646. And the reason I go through that rigmarole is to say that they're publicly on the record and people can find them if they want to see them.
Okay.
Can I ask you about your statement, first of all?
Mm-hmm.
Have you read it recently?
Yes, I have.
And can you please confirm for us that its contents are true?
The contents are what I believe to be true at the time of making the statement.
Yes. And have you discussed your statement or your evidence with anybody before coming here today?
No.
Okay. Now I'm going to start with a few questions about your position in the LFB.
Yeah.
Is it right, you joined the LFB in February 2001?
That's correct.
And you've been an active firefighter since then, have
That's
you?
correct, yes.
And prior to that, you were, I think, a firefighter in Buckingham.
That's correct,
And
yeah.
how long were you a firefighter in Buckingham for?
I joined Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue on the 8th of June 1999.
1999. And I think you're presently a crew manager at North Kensington, or at least you were when you did your statement.
Yes, I still am.
You still are?
Yeah.
And was that your position on the night of the 13th, 14th of June 2017?
Yes, it was.
And is it right, you'd only been at North Kensington for a few months before Grenfell Tower?
That's correct. I joined the watch at North Kensington in February of that year.
Yes. And before that, I think you tell us you were at Willesden, and before that, and then at Twickenham.
Yeah, so I was a firefighter at Willesden, and then I got promoted to Acton, and then from Acton I went to Twickenham, and then from Twickenham to North Kensington.
Right. And at North Kensington, which watch were you on?
I've always been on the red watch.
I've always been on red. And on page 1 of your statement, in the second paragraph, you say, I have now been a CM for nearly 3 years, and I'm considered competent. Just in terms of CM training, is there a particular training you have to go through to be a crew manager?
Yeah, so initially when you're promoted, you are put onto what's called a LIM course, Leadership Incident Management course, which for me was 2 days at a Bristol training venue. And in those 2 days, you're put through your paces running various incidents as a crew manager and as a watch manager, and you're assessed while you do those incidents. If you pass the course successfully, which I did, you're then posted to your station. I was posted to Acton Red Watch. Then you undertake training on your watch, which is evidence gathering exercise. So duties that I carry out, I make evidence logs of that. Once I've got enough evidence to satisfy the development log and it's signed off by my watch manager and then it's overseen by my station manager, it then gets sent off for verification at an independent review board within the brigade, and once everyone's happy with it, it's signed off, I'm then deemed as a competent crew manager.
Right. Thank you. And how does your role, or did your role as crew manager relate to or interlink with Mike Dowden's role as watch manager?
So I'm the level below Mike Dowden. Mike Dowden is the watch manager, so a typical incident, Mike will be running the incident, he'll have overall command, and I'm his number 2, if you like.
Right.
I'm high ranking the firefighters, but I'm one below Mike, so I'm kind of the intermediate between Mike and the firefighters on the watch.
Okay. And would he give you instructions, or would you work on the basis of your own initiative in general terms?
Both. Sometimes he'll give me specific instructions of things he wants done. A lot of the time, I'll know what needs to be done just through experience, I guess. And he would just intervene if he sees a problem, if he'd like things run another way. But it's not a case of every task we go to do, I have to wait for him to tell me what to do. A lot of the time, you get on with it, and he intervenes if he wants something done a different way.
And what are the crew manager's particular responsibilities at an incident?
So you're typically, like I say, Mike will be in charge of the overall incident, and I'll be in charge of the sort of smaller scenes of operation. So if I put it into a different context, a road traffic collision, typically I'll be standing in front of the vehicle and I'll be keeping a close eye on the firefighters. Mike will be stood back, overseeing the whole incident, and I feed back to him. Otherwise he'll be trying to communicate with sort of 10 different people at once. So the point of the crew manager is it's a level of safety within the rank structure, and it cuts down the lines of communication for the officer in charge.
Right. Turning to high-rise firefighting, and to repeat the question, what particular responsibilities would a crew manager have at a high-rise incident?
It depends on the incident, how it's progressing, but typically on a, if there is ever one, a standard high-rise incident, the watch manager would be the incident commander and the crew manager would be in charge of the bridgehead. That would be a typical scenario.
I follow. Now, continuing on the theme of high-rise firefighting, what high-rise firefighting training did you get in your initial training?
That
might take you back a bit far.
Yeah, no. So in my initial training when I joined the London Fire Brigade, at that time, we went to Moreton and the Marsh College, and we'd done an exercise in a high-rise building, but that was as a firefighter. When I got promoted to a crew manager, we didn't do a high-rise exercise.
Right. Okay. And that was at a time when you were at the London Fire Brigade?
Yes.
Right. Have you received high-rise training based on London Fire Brigade Policy 633?
Yeah, so as part of our what we call core skills training, and we train on a range of subjects, and high-rise training is within that. So it will, most of the time it will be theoretical based, lectures and going over procedures and what's expected to be done. Other times it could be, I've done training exercises in the drill tower where we sort of simulate a high-rise incident. Yeah, that's the main sort of training that I've done.
And what, I know you weren't at North Kensington for very long before the Grenfell Tower fire, but did you receive any drill training on high-rise firefighting while you were at North Kensington?
Most definitely we've done quite a lot of theory training on it. I
Right.
specifically remember doing that. I can't remember if we did a practical exercise or not.
Did you receive any refresher training in high-rise firefighting in the...
No.
You didn't. What was your most recent, or when was your most recent high-rise training prior to the Grenfell Tower in June 2017?
As a watch, so my team that I work with, we've done quite a lot of high-rise training leading up to Grenfell, purely because you've heard about it from other witness statements. We'd attended a fire at Trellick Tower a month or two before Grenfell, and because of that incident, we'd done a lot of high-rise training on the watch following that incident.
Yes, and you speak of Trellick Tower in your witness statement on the first page.
Yeah.
And you say in the 7th line up from the bottom, 6th line up, there was an incident at Trellick Tower, and since this we have undertaken a lot of high-rise training at North Kensington Fire Station. Mm-hmm. This is a hot topic for us. Now, Trellick Tower was, and you tell me, well, first of all, were you at Trellick Tower?
I was the first appliance onto it.
Can you give us the date?
I can't, sorry, no.
I think April 2017 is the month. Would that be right?
Yeah, that sounds
okay. Right. So in the period April to June 2017, did you do high-rise training at North Kensington?
Yes.
Right. And you say it was a hot topic for you. Why was that?
Because the fire at Trellick Tower gave us challenges that we didn't anticipate, and it also put me in a situation that I was unfamiliar with, in the sense that when I got called onto that incident, it's a tower block of 30 floors, and I think the fire was on the 27th, and I turned up with just a single crew and one pumping appliance. In a textbook scenario, you'd have 2 fire appliances pull up together and everyone gets designated their jobs. When I turned up to that, I was on my own with my crew, and that put me in a position that I hadn't anticipated being. So it opened my eyes into how things can go, and that created a lot of talking points and running through sort of different scenarios in a training environment after the incident.
Right. I'm sorry to ask you this, just to follow up on that answer.
Yeah.
You say that at Trellick Tower, the initial attendance was just one appliance?
No, there was more appliances ordered on.
Right.
I was at North Kensington at the time with my crew at the station, and it's a 2-minute drive, if that, from the station.
Right.
So we got there first, and the other appliances were coming on after us. There was other appliances on it, but I was in a situation where I was there dealing with it with just a crew of
Right,
Well,
okay.
Three and myself, there was 4 of us.
Yeah, I understand. So what particular lessons or takeaway did you learn from your experience of dealing with the incident at Trellick Tower?
The fact that things always don't go as they're written down in the policy. The policy is, it's what we do and it's what we're trained to, it's what we should stick to, but it's written in a perfect world. And it showed me that things aren't always perfect and we have to adapt. Yeah.
And what was it about the Trellick Tower incident that you learned that departed from policy, that it meant that you had to depart from policy?
Yeah, the fact that I needed to be in about 3 or 4 different places at once. I needed to be speaking to the concierge, I needed to be getting to the plans, I needed to be securing the fire lift, I needed to be detailing the crews, and it all needed doing, and I was on my own trying to do everything, you know, but you can't, you just do the best you can.
No. Did you succeed in getting the plans?
I didn't actually know, because the key got stuck in the box, so I gave up. The plans were retrieved later, but at that time, yeah, I had to abandon it because I was wasting too much time on one task, so I left that. But they did, someone freed the key off later on.
Okay. And since the Trellick Tower incident, has the high-rise training changed in any particular way so as to reinforce or educate firefighters about the lessons learnt at Trellick Tower?
Not specifically at Trellick Tower. There was the policy was reviewed in July after the Grenfell incident. It had amendments to the policy, but nothing came out from Trellick Tower.
You then, at the bottom of the page, line up, say, we also complete practical training on buildings under construction. Does under construction include under refurbishment?
Yeah, so what I'm referring to there was when I was at Acton, there was a 12 appliance high-rise drill organised. It was a high-rise block that had been, I think it was going to be demolished. All the residents had been taken out of it, so it was just a shell of a building. And my watch manager at the time planned a 12-pump exercise there, and they'd done a training exercise, but unfortunately I missed it. So when I'm talking there, I'm talking in general terms.
Right.
But yeah, I was sent out on a standby that day, so I missed the exercise.
Right, and then you go on to say this tends to be more about the insulation catching alight and not specifically about cladding. What do you mean by insulation catching alight?
So there I'm referring to that, I think at the time of the statement they were asking me what kind of trainings we've had on different types of high-rise buildings. Apart from a standard high-rise, there's policy 633 high-rise firefighting. The only other training that differs from that is buildings under construction, and typically fire spread in those buildings can be rapid because they're exposed to the elements. So that's what I'm referring to there.
When you say, sorry to press you a little bit, insulation, what's the insulation?
So typically in a timber frame building that's under construction, when they're at their most vulnerable to catch fire is before the outside shell has been put onto it. So it'll be, as I say, a timber frame, and there'll be insulation panels within the timber frame, like Celotex insulation sheets.
Right.
If they catch fire, the fire spread's very rapid because of the wind, and they're basically exposed to the elements, so the fire can spread, you know, as a bonfire, but it will spread as quick as the wind will take it.
Right.
So there is training on buildings under construction.
And you mentioned the exposed cladding or insulation like Celotex being prone to catching fire. Is that well known in the London Fire Brigade that insulation such as Celotex is prone to catching fire and promoting fire spread?
I wouldn't say it's well known. It's not a common occurrence, but it does happen.
You mentioned Celotex. Why do you mention that?
That's just the phrase I put to the panelling insulation. It could be made by other manufacturers, but that's just my own, that's what I call it. Right. I don't know what the correct industry term for it is. You get training, you say, for
what happens when insulation catches alight. What is that? What does that training involve?
So it's not training on specifically what happens when it catches alight. It's training on a building under construction. So it's more about being prepared for rapid fire spread. Right. It doesn't focus specifically on what would happen if the insulation caught fire.
Okay, but if the insulation, as you've described it, caught fire, which was on the exterior of the building because it hadn't yet had the wrapping attached to it, applied to it, did you have training into how to tackle the spread of fire on that exterior?
I can't remember if there's specific training on how to deal with the actual... There probably is, but I can't remember.
No. Okay. But nonetheless, just to perhaps repeat a question, would you say that it was well known in the London Fire Brigade that fire on exposed insulation forming part of the exterior of a building under construction?
It doesn't focus specifically on the insulation. The risk is put down to buildings under construction, and that falls within it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
But as part of that risk, the risk of buildings under construction, is what you're saying that cladding insulation covering a building is something which promotes rapid fire spread, and that's a risk that you have to learn to deal with when learning to deal with buildings under construction.
Yeah, I mean, we learnt that the hard way on the night of the fire.
Yeah, but I'm talking. I understand that entirely. But before the night, was that learning present to your knowledge?
No, not to my knowledge. No.
Right. Now, in a similar theme, did your training ever cover how to deal with the risk of fire spread on the exterior of a building?
No. Not that I remember.
Have you ever heard of a fire at Shepherd's Court?
Yes, I heard of it. I was on duty, but I didn't attend. I was at Twickenham at the time, and that's quite a distance from Hammersmith where the fire was.
Do you know of whether there were lessons learned from the fire at Shepherd's Court that were filtered down to operational crews?
I don't specifically know of any lessons learned, but like any industry, there's talk amongst the workforce when incidents like that happen, and everyone was fully aware that the exterior caught alight and it spread upwards at quite a rapid rate. From memory, there was no specific training package that came out after that to train us on it, but I was aware at the same time of what happened.
Right. And you say talk amongst the workforce.
Yeah.
Can you be a bit more specific? Were you ever privy to conversations with your colleagues about exterior fire spread at Shepherd's Court?
Yeah, there was definitely conversations about what happened and the rate it spread. I apologise for being vague. I can't give you specifics on that, but I was fully aware of what happened and the consequences of that fire. Yeah.
Could you say you were fully aware of what happened? Could you just describe in your own words as best you can what did happen?
Yes, so the fire started in a flat, and it broke out the windows, and it quite quickly spread upwards. So the flames came out the window and caught the flat above that. That caught fire, and then it just kept creeping up the building. Do
you know, or did you discuss what the cause of the rapid fire spread on the exterior at Shepherd's Court was?
No.
And in terms of workforce discussion, what was the lesson or single theme that Shepherd's Court told you?
It's more of an awareness that it could happen.
Right.
And like I say, it wasn't a specific training package that came out. It was just sort of discussion that,
And was there something sorry to cut you off.
No, sorry, I've finished.
Was there something about the way in which Shepherd's Court was constructed that affected the way in which the fire spread there?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
And does your training cover compartmentation?
Yes.
And does it specifically cover what a firefighter has to do if compartmentation within a high-rise block fails?
don't think it does, no.
Does it cover the stay put policy? Does your training cover the stay put policy?
There's reference to it in the high-rise policy, yes.
And do you ever receive any training on how to assess whether the stay put policy remains a safe policy to retain in the event of failure of compartmentation in a high-rise building?
I'd say absolutely not. The wording is something like it's a consideration of the OIC whether to keep that in place or not, but it doesn't go into specifics on what signs to look out for.
It doesn't. And in your experience, are there particular signs as to what to look out for which an OIC should keep in mind?
From my experience, no, because I've never, till that night, been at a high-rise incident where we felt the need that, hang on a minute, we need to get everyone out of here. So my experience hadn't shown me that, no.
Okay. Okay. Now, on page 5, just picking up on that last answer and taking it a little further, you say a third of the way down the page, and I'm afraid it's not easy to navigate, but I would call this the second paragraph. It's a third of the way down the page, towards the end of the second paragraph. You say, and this is later in the evening, the fire was travelling on the outside of the building. This is something that can happen, and I have seen before. Fire can spread to flat above the window.
Yeah.
Do you see that? This is something that can happen. I've seen before. Fire can spread to flat above via the window.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you about that. You say you've seen it before. Can you be more specific and tell us about your experience of seeing fire
the obvious
spread?
example for that would be Shepherd's Court. Although I haven't seen it physically myself, I was aware that it happened and I was aware that it can happen. So I guess when I was saying I've seen it before, that's bad wording on my part. Maybe I should have said I'm aware of it.
Right. Okay. But am I right in thinking, therefore, that you never actually attended at a high-rise incident where you've had to tackle a fire with external fire spread?
I did.
External fire
many
spread.
years ago at a block called the Oaks in Willesden.
Right.
We had a fire on the... I can't even remember how many stories it is now, but we had a high-rise incident there and the fire broke out and it started spreading to the balcony above the flat that was on fire. Right.
So that was a two-compartment fire, was it?
The fire was... Yeah, so it breached the compartment of the flat that was on fire. And from memory, the fire was contained to the balcony of the flat above it.
Right.
Because crews were quite quick to go in there and extinguish that.
Okay.
But had it been left... the assumption would be it would escalate and progress into the flat.
And what was the mechanism of external or exterior fire spread at
so
the
failure
Oaks?
of the window. Right,
okay. And how did the fire then travel up the exterior of the Oaks?
Well, heat rises and so does fire. So if a fire breaks out the window, unless there's a strong wind force on that, the flames are always going to lick upwards.
Was any material on the exterior of that high-rise, the Oaks in Willesden, on fire?
No, from memory it was the balcony, bits on the balcony, so sort of plant pots and stuff that are on the balcony.
So is this what firefighters refer to as the coanda effect?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Okay. So that's when a fire jumps... Well, you explain to me, what is the coanda effect?
So it's when the window fails and the fire will come out the window and against the side of the building, and then whatever's above it is likely to catch fire, be it cladding at Shepherd's Bush, be it the balcony at the Oaks, or whatever is flammable above it is likely to catch fire unless it's extinguished before.
Right. You said cladding at Shepherd's Bush. Is it before Grenfell happened? Did you know that the Shepherd's Court fire involve
No, it was
cladding?
just it's discussions since Grenfell that I knew it was cladding. At the time, I just knew it spread up, so it's...
Okay. Sorry to pick you up on that.
That's all right.
I was interested in what you said. Okay, now, can I then turn to prior visits to Grenfell Tower? You say in your statement at page 2, top of that page, we can get back to it. You say, I've not been on one of those to Grenfell Tower. That's a familiarisation visit, due to the fact that I'd only been at the station for a few months, but it would have come round for me to complete. Do you happen to know when the station last conducted a visit to Grenfell Tower prior to the fire in June 17?
I do now, through watching the inquiry.
No.
No, but at the time I didn't.
You didn't. Okay. And if you go to the bottom of page 2, you say 4 lines up from the bottom, I knew Grenfell Tower due to the fact that I'd attended a call 2 to 3 weeks previously for a lockout. A mum had locked herself out after her son had called to say he'd been assaulted and someone trying to steal his bike. On this incident, we'd been permitted entry by one of the residents at the electronic door. This was the only time I'd been to Grenfell Tower, but I roughly knew the layout.
Yes.
On that occasion, had you yourself tried to gain access to the tower through the electronic door?
On that occasion, we was met by the caller outside of the building. She explained to us what had happened, and there was people with her. I don't know if they were friends or other residents who knew her. And when I asked her to take her up to the flat, they let us in. So
right. And did you gain any understanding about how easy it was for a fire crew to access Grenfell Tower in the event of a fire as a result of these electronic doors being in place?
No. I think that was down to the fact that because when we attended the call, we was let straight in, and obviously I'm thinking about the incident and what we need to do and what equipment. I think because it wasn't an issue, it wasn't something that I thought about, if that makes sense. I think had we not been able to get through that door, it would have triggered a thought process. But because the door was open for us, and while I'm talking today, we just walked straight through it. I didn't give it a second thought after that.
Yes, I follow. Okay, well, we'll come back to that theme in a moment, I think. I want now to turn with you, if I may, to the call-out to Grenfell Tower on the night.
Yeah.
Now, in your statement on page 2, in the... it's difficult to tell. I think it's probably still the first paragraph, 8 lines or so down from the top. You say you started your shift at 8 p.m. and the bells went off. I'm just trying to pick it up. The bells went off at 050 hours, which meant a mobilisation message came over the speakers announcing an emergency call. So is that how it works at North Kensington? The speakers go, do they?
Yeah.
And is that a pre-recorded message?
Yeah, so it's a pre-recorded voice. It's the same at all fire stations. The only differ will be it tells you which appliances have been mobilised.
Okay. And then you say that, after explaining your normal routine, you say, just before the paragraph break, I went past the watch room where the teleprinter messages are. It also houses the information holders, maps, routes to the incident, etc.
Yeah.
As I passed, I heard someone say there was a fire at Grenfell Tower.
Yeah.
Can you describe what happens in the watch room when a call comes in?
Yeah, so the watchroom attendant the watchroom attendant and the drivers of the appliances will go to the watchroom. They'll tear off the call slip. Each driver will get a copy of that call slip. They'll have a look at it and they'll decide for themselves if they know where they're going. They should also get given a route card, which is it's a magnified snapshot of the map grid reference that the incident is on. So they should be handed one of those each. There's also a large map in there, so if they're unsure or if they want to double check, they can have a look at the map and have a quick look at the route of how to get there. Right. But it would normally just be those 3 people that go there to the watch room.
You refer to a watch room attendant.
Yeah.
Is that one of the crew members, or is that a
Yes, it's a firefighter that will be detailed that task at roll call at the start of the shift.
And who was that on the night? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
Okay. And you say in your statement you heard someone say there was a fire at Grenfell Tower. Do you remember who that was? No. So at North Kensington, the layout is when you come down the stairs, the watchroom door is opposite you, and the fire appliance is off to the right. So I kind of have to walk. Everyone who comes down the stairs has to walk past the watchroom to get to the appliances. And I'd come down the stairs. I was making way to the appliance. I just heard it coming out the room. I don't know who it was that said it. It was just right. In the middle of page 2, just after the break, you say, I got my information sheet, tip sheet, and on that was the type of incident I was attending, the address, the time of the call, and any operational texts.
Mm-hmm.
That tip sheet, you say, I got my information sheet, tip sheet. How did you get it? Did somebody give it to you?
Tom Abel, who was driving, had it.
Right.
And it's kind of standard. There's no written down procedure, but generally the driver will get in the cabin, he'll give it to the officer in charge because he's finished with it, he knows where he's going, or she knows where they're going, and yeah, they'll normally hand it over to the officer in charge of that appliance.
Okay. And does each firefighter get their own tip sheet, or does it?
No, it's printed out in triplicate. So one stays on the teleprinter roll at the station, and the other 2 will go with each appliance. Or at multi-appliance stations, there'll be more copies to reflect the number of appliances. Okay. But there's generally 1 per appliance, and 1 stays at the station.
And you describe in the next sentence the information that you got on that tip sheet. You say the operational text would include whether the building was high-rise premises, known hoarders, etc. I believe the information we had was quite specific in that it stated there was a fire on the 4th floor at Grenfell Tower.
Hmm.
Do you remember anything else by way of detail from that tip sheet?
No.
Now, you then go on to say that you went to my appliance, G272, which was the pump for North Kensington. Just pausing there, that's the pump, and G271 is the pump ladder.
Correct.
And just very simply, could you just tell us the distinction in operational terms between the pump and the pump ladder?
Yes, the pump ladder will carry the 13.5 metre ladder, and the pump will carry the 9 metre ladder. The pump ladder will have the highest ranking officer on duty on it. So that night it was Mike Dowden, who's the watch manager, and the pump will have a crew manager riding it. And
in terms of their ability to communicate and their ability to pump, would they be the same or different?
It's exactly the same appliance.
Right.
It's just the difference is the people sitting on it and the ladders, pretty much.
Right. Now, you then go on to say, 2 lines down from the start of that paragraph, 3/4 of the way down page 2, on the way I interrogated the appliance's mobile data terminal to find out more information on where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
I remember looking at the location because I recall it was quite tight to get our appliance near the tower.
Mm-hmm.
There was a triangle on the building which indicates it is in an operational risk database entry. Now, just pausing there, did you look at the MDT on the way?
I looked at it. I didn't go into the operational risk entry for it. Like I say, I'd only been there once before, so I knew it was there, but I couldn't remember how to get there or the particular access for it. So we go to hundreds of call-outs. So I just wanted to look at it to refresh myself of where we were going. And when I saw it, I remember that the roads were quite tight getting into it. It's just a residential area, so we park cars and stuff, and especially at night time, access is always more difficult because everyone's at home, so all the cars are out in the street. And I just always look myself, even if the person driving me knows where they're going, I always double check just in case they forget on the way, or I'd just like to know for myself really where we're going.
and you say you interrogated the MDT. Did you look into the operational risk database entry for Grenfell Tower?
No, I didn't. No,
Do you remember trying to do that?
No, I wasn't going to do that on the way. I was more looking at where it was, the way we were going into it, and the hydrants that were there nearby as well.
Can I just see if I can get a picture of how you would go about interrogating the MDT if you wanted to look at the ORD content?
Yeah. So it's got it's a screen, you know, same sort of bit smaller than the monitor there. It's got different tabs on it. You can look at various different things. On this occasion, I pressed the map function. So from memory, when I got onto the appliance, it had an electronic copy of the call tip sheet. That's on there as well, an electronic copy. So I put it into map function, and I zoomed in onto where we was going, onto the tower. So it brought that up bigger so I could have a look.
Right. But you didn't go further to see where hydrants were, what the dry riser were?
I had a look where the hydrants were. I can't remember where they are now, but I remember looking at the time, and that's as far as I went with it. It's an excellent system. It's not so great at looking at when you're on the way to a call, purely because you're trying to do, you know, you bounce along in a fire engine, we go quite quick, you know, you're jumping about where you're trying to press the button and your fingers moving and trying to read a screen that's fixed while you're sort of, you know, talking to the crews or keeping a lookout for sort of, you know, potential accidents. There's lots going on. So from my experience, the MDT is better to look at when you're there because you're fixed and you can have a look and scroll down. It's kind of trying to read that text while you're driving along in the car. It'd be a lot harder than what it is stood here now.
And when you did arrive and came to a standstill, did you have another look at the
No,
MDT?
because I knew my watch manager would have done that.
Did he tell you he'd done that?
No, but I know Mike and I know he would have done. He's very thorough.
Did he tell you about the quality of the information that you think he would have found on it?
No, that wouldn't be a normal discussion at that time.
Okay. Now, on page 3 of your statement, you describe in the second line how you pull up behind the pump ladder, that's 271, and you then say control called up on the radio and said that they were receiving multiple calls. I knew from this that we were attending a significant incident because you would normally only get 1 or 2 calls. The radio you're referring to there, is that the main scheme radio?
That's correct.
Okay, and would that have broadcast itself into the cab or was it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You then say, well, when you say significant incident, there, we've just looked at that. Can you just explain a little bit more clearly what you mean?
Yeah, so sometimes a call will come in and just one person will make that call. That's normal. Generally, if there's visible fire, anyone who's around in that area will call the fire service because they're not sure if someone else has done it. A good example of that would be a car light on a high street. Loads of people passing, our control would probably take 20 or 30 calls to that one incident because it's got visuals, people phone it up. So generally when you get more than one call or control call or something, so you get multiple calls or further calls, it's a good indication you've got something rather than it's a false alarm. It's a good indication that hang on, there is actually a fire here because more than one person's called it in.
Right.
And that's why they pass us that information as well. It's basically a heads up that you're going to, you know, a fire here. It's not likely to be a false alarm.
Yes, no. And then you say at the beginning of the next paragraph, when we arrived, you see that? When we arrived, I looked up at Grenfell Tower and saw a fire on the 4th floor. Yeah. Just pausing there. Do you remember exactly where G272 had parked?
Yep, just short of, we was falling behind Golf 271 and we parked behind it. I couldn't give you a distance, but we wasn't right behind it. There was space between us. But yeah, we pulled up short of Golf 271.
Right. Now, Just help me with this. In terms of physical arrival, which pump arrived first? Do you remember?
The Gulf 271.
Pump ladder?
Yeah. Well, it was pretty much the same time. We was following each other. But
right, but you were behind it, were you?
Yeah.
Okay, because I just wanted to clarify perhaps a minor point. If you could just be shown tab 23, the short incident log, and page 8 of that.
Oh,
So it comes on the screen.
oh
Yes,
sorry.
no, sorry, that was directed at the the documents manager. Now, halfway down the page there, you see appliances, and it could be expanded, call sign, or C sign, station, status, and then you see G272, and then if you look across the page, you can see mobile 05652, and that's status 2, as I understand it, and then on scene 05924, and 271 below it is on scene at 05928, so it looks like 4 seconds afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've just said you were following G271. It wasn't following you. So can you explain why the short incident log has G272 as on scene 4 seconds earlier than G271?
Yeah, so it could be one of two reasons. It could be when you book in, we call it status free, and that's done on the MDT that we spoke about. When we press that, that sends a notification up to our control centre, and they know that appliance is booked and attended. It's logged on the call slip. So there's one or two reasons why Golf 272 was in attendance first. It's either because I physically pressed the button first. I tend to, there's no necessarily right or wrong to this, I tend to do it as we're approaching, so when we pull up I can get straight off and go and do it. Or it could be sometimes there's a delay with the technology and you'll press it and the status change will stay grey for a short period of time, and when it goes a solid colour then it's sent, and that could be just radio signal. It's the same with a mobile phone too. Right. So it could be either I pressed it first or there's just a slight delay with the technology.
That's very helpful. Okay, thank you. Now, the next question is, when you arrived, do you remember where you parked the appliance in relation to the tower?
Yeah, so it was sort of southeast corner.
Southeast corner. How far away from G271 were you?
I can't remember. I'd be guessing if I gave you an answer to that.
Right. And in terms of, well, let's just look at your exhibit if we can, just to see if we can get this. Could you be showing your first exhibit, which is MET 000013086? Which is a map that you've done. Now, can you just, if you can, explain to us where G272 was parked in relation to the tower? I think you've marked.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it was roughly where that M is.
Roughly where the M is.
Yeah.
Okay. And 271
was in front of us, sort of more in line with the main entrance, if that is there.
So the M is where G272 is.
Yeah, and Golf 271 was probably more sort of the front of the appliance. From looking at that, would be sort of more in line with that dark line that's in front of it.
I see. Okay, so you're how many yards apart, do you think? Again,
I'd be guessing. It's standard practice that we would always leave enough room to slip the 135 ladder off if we need to.
Right.
So it was at least 13.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah, I'd be guessing if I gave you an answer.
Okay. Do you think you had a good view of the east side of the building?
Yes.
Okay. And Which pump was it that had the hose which was set in to the dry rising main?
Gulf 271.
271. Okay. And is that because that's the first pump to arrive?
Yeah, it was parked closest to the dry riser. Yeah.
Yes. Now, in your statement, you say on page 3, just after where we've left off with it, second line down from the first paragraph break, I could clearly see the fire was at the window, you say, of the flat on the east side. And I've marked this on the map, which we've now just put away, but I think we know where you mean. Mm-hmm. I could see flames, you say, covering the window. Now, could you see any smoke at that stage?
No.
What were your first thoughts about what could happen to that fire? Do you remember?
My first thoughts was that we've got an incident, and I just went into
right,
automatic sort of.
You go on to say the fire was clean looking with orange flames. Sometimes fires are in very dark black looking smoke, and all you can see is a glow of the fire. This wasn't what Grenfell looked like. It was orange flames.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, I do not recall any smoke. What did the fact that it was orange flames and clean looking tell you about the way the fire was behaving?
So it tells me that the fire's got ventilation. It's got fresh air going into it. Sometimes you might pull up, and if the compartment's completely sealed, the windows will be very smoke blackened, and you might see an orange glow. Generally, if you see clean flame, the smoke is dispersing somewhere. So my initial thought when I saw that, well, it wasn't my initial thought, but if you can see clean flame, the smoke is going somewhere and it's got some kind of ventilation. Otherwise, it'll be bottling up.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Is that a convenient moment for a break?
Is it convenient to you?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Well, Mr. Secrett, we'll have a short break now. Can I ask you, please, not to talk to anyone about your evidence or anything to do with it?
Okay.
And if we have to break again at the end of the day and you haven't finished, same will apply.
Okay.
All right. Thanks. So if you go to the usher, we'll resume at 3:25.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Right. 3:25, please. Mr. Millett, just to alert you and everybody else, the witness is ready to come back.
Yes.
But I think we should seek to finish the afternoon at about 4 o'clock.
Very well, Mr. Chairman. I understand why.
Yeah. Mr. Secrett, just so that you know, we're going to finish the afternoon at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
In any event.
Okay.
But if at any stage you feel that you need a break or just need to sit down for a moment, that's fine.
Okay.
You just make it clear.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Millett.
Mr. Secrett, just a couple of questions arising out of the discussion we were having before the break. Going back to Trellick Tower, do you remember whether there was any evacuation, partial perhaps, evacuation of Trellick Tower at the incident you attended?
No.
Was the discussion...
there was no evacuation. No, I can't remember. So I can remember, and there was no evacuation.
Thank you for the clarification. Earlier on in the afternoon, you said that you had never, before the incident at Grenfell Tower, been at a high-rise incident when you felt the need to get everybody out. Just exploring that answer a little bit, and we'll come to it, but can I just understand something? Are you saying that when you were there at Grenfell Tower, you did feel the need to get everybody out?
Well, yeah. Of course, we wanted to get everyone out of that building. A mass evacuation didn't go through my mind at the time, because we didn't know what was about to unfold in front of us.
No.
But obviously, yeah, we wanted everyone out safely from that building.
Right. And doing the best you can in general terms, and we'll come to the specifics later, tomorrow, but did there come a time during your attendance at the Grenfell Tower incident when you thought to yourself, we must evacuate everybody in the building?
I can't remember having that specific thought, because the incident kind of had a progression to it, and it... no.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back to that if we need to. Can I talk to you about something a little less, perhaps difficult? Entry into Grenfell Tower on the night.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you about first of all, about the use of a fob to get in. Now, we're going to look at a number of photographs from the CCTV cameras of you coming in with other firefighters into Grenfell Tower on the night. Before I show you those, can I just ask you whether you're all right to look at those?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Can we start with CCTV camera number 1, inquiry document 130, which is at tab 1 of our CCTV bundle. And if we look at that, we can see on the screen, this is a CCTV shot of a firefighter at 01:00:50. So 50 seconds past 1 o'clock in the morning. And can you identify that firefighter?
It's myself.
That's you. And you are outside the main entrance. I think we can take that as read. You I think, then go to the internal door, and that is... well, perhaps let's just look at the next photograph on. That's you coming in, I think. So I'm telling you that. Can you identify that as you?
Yes, I can.
That's you. And that's timed at 01:00:52. And then at the next picture, we see a firefighter at the lobby, the lift lobby door on the ground floor at Grenfell Tower. Can you... I know that the firefighter has his or her back to the camera, but do you think that you can identify that
Yeah,
person?
I know that's myself.
That's you. Do you remember doing that?
I remember doing it, and I was the only crew manager. The other crew manager had breathing apparatus set on, so it can only be me. But I remember doing it as well.
Okay. And if you look at the next shot, which is tab 4, This is timed at 010059. You're doing something. Can you just tell us what you think you're doing in that picture?
It looks like I'm talking on my handheld radio.
Right. And what have you got in your left hand, do you think?
That's the call sheet, the tip sheet that we spoke about earlier.
That's the tip sheet. Anything else?
It looks like my lift key.
Lift key.
Yeah,
right.
express lift key.
Right. That's probably the best we can do before it gets over-pixelated. So tip sheet, and you think the lift key?
I think so, yeah.
Right. And where would you have got the lift key from? Where did you get it from? Do you
I keep one in my tunic.
Right. Is it always in your tunic?
It is, yeah. As my role as a crew manager, Mike or the watch manager would normally stay outside the building. I would normally go into the building to either investigate or start operations, and it's quite common to need an express key, so I keep one on myself, just because I'm always using it, really. It's not a personal issue, I just...
Right, okay. And then the next picture tab, which is tab 5, which is INQ 134. What are you doing there?
Looking back,
right.
Looking for the main... I think I was... when I was on my handheld radio, I was saying that the door's locked. Can someone see if there's a key fob? Right. And I think I was waiting to see if anyone was getting one.
Okay. And then in the next tab, which is tab 6, and we have INQ 135. That's I think you at the door.
Yeah.
We can recognise you there. And who's that on the left coming towards you?
That's Mike Dowden, my watch manager.
Mike Dowden. And then coming in front of you, holding in their left hand what looks like an entry control board and a forward information board, if I'm not wrong. Who's that, do you think?
From memory, that's Firefighter Padillo.
Right, okay. And you've got your hand out for something. Do you know what it is?
I can't remember, but I assume I'm asking Mike if he managed to get a fob for the interior door. Okay. Or I might just be explaining what we need.
And then in the next picture, which is timed at 010126, it's tab 7, we can see a group of firefighters, 2 in BA, and incident commander in the foreground there. And there's a lady, it looks like a lady, by the door. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that lady being with me.
Right.
But I remember going outside and getting given some keys that had a fob on it, and then I went back inside to gain entry. But I don't remember the lady being with me.
Okay. Do you remember how you actually got entry into the lift lobby?
Someone gave me some keys that had the electronic fob on it,
right.
Which allowed me to operate the electronic lock to gain entry.
Okay. Do you remember who that was? Who gave you the electronic fob key to get entry?
I've got a vague memory of someone out the front giving me some keys, but now I've seen that, it's made me doubt it, because I'm not sure if she gave me the keys. Someone definitely gave me a set of keys.
Right. Do you remember whether it was a male or a female?
From my memory, it was a male.
Right. Just give me just one moment. Sorry about this. It may not matter very much, but it's just to complete the picture. Well, while that's going on, I have just a couple of questions for you. What's the usual procedure where you arrive at a property that's got an electronically fob-operated security system?
The normal thing to do would try the trades button to see if sometimes that will operate the lock to gain entry. If there's somebody outside, we'll ask them to let us in, or failing that, we would call a flat on the intercom system and say, it's the fire brigade, can you let us in?
Right.
Sometimes there's a firefighter's key override box, so we can put in the express key that I mentioned that I always keep on me. If we operate that, sometimes that releases the electronic lock to override the security systems to allow us to go in.
Is that a drop key?
Yeah.
I see. That's what's called a drop key.
That's correct.
And is the fact that you would need electronic entry through a fob or use of the drop key something that you would ordinarily expect to be on the MDT, which you would find out about on the way to an incident?
I wouldn't necessarily expect it, but it could be placed on there. It's not something that I would look up to find out. It's kind of something you sort out when you're there.
And when you arrived at Grenfell, was it a surprise to you to find that you couldn't get into the lift lobby without an electronic fob key?
It was an obstruction. I wouldn't say it was a surprise. It definitely stopped us in our tracks for a bit.
Right.
But it's not uncommon to be faced with a door that you can't open.
No. And how long did it? You say it was an obstruction that stopped you in your tracks for a bit. How long would you say it stopped you in your tracks for?
A minute. I could probably tell from the CCTV timings, but it felt like a minute or so.
Right. Now, we have you coming into the lift lobby, and then you walk into the lift lobby in the next picture, which is 137, INQ 137. Is that you?
That's me, yes.
And you're striding with purpose towards something. What are you looking to do?
I'm looking to secure the fire lift.
Right. And in the next picture, timed at 01:01:35, you're doing something with your right hand. Could you explain what you're doing?
Yeah, so I've put my express lift key or drop key into the box that operates it, and I'm trying to switch it on, which would engage the fire lift operation.
Right. And did you have any success with that?
No, I didn't know.
And if you go to INQ 138, which I think is the next one, INQ 138, that is showing you doing something with your right hand with the lift key and something with your left hand. What are you doing with your left hand, do you think?
It looks like I'm calling the lifts the conventional way by pressing the button.
Right. While turning the lift key with your right hand?
Yeah, I think by that stage I'd accepted defeat that it wasn't going to work, so I called it as a member of the public would call the lift.
Right. When you turned the key, did you hear a click or feel a click?
No, I remember it was hitting a stop. Normally you would, when you put it in and you twist it, you feel sort of a positive click where it throws a lever over which engages it, but it wasn't doing that. It was just sort of hitting some sort of stop on the key. It was, the mechanism wasn't, it wasn't connecting to the mechanism. It wasn't working.
Right. And we see in this image, as you've told us, that you're operating the fire recall control panel and pressing the general recall button at the same time. Mm-hmm. That's right, is it?
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Why were you attempting to operate both functions at the same time?
It's no... I may have even been trying to get my key out of the... Sometimes they're quite stiff to get in. I may have even been trying to retrieve my key and just call in the lift. There's no... little trick you can do if you do both at the same time. It's nothing like that. I'm either still trying it and pressing the lift to get it to call it on its way, or I'm physically trying to get my key back out and just call the lift normally.
Right. And what happened with the lift when you tried each and both of these functions?
With the fire lift operation, nothing. And when I called it normally, the lift, I can't remember if the doors opened straight away or if the lift came down, but when I called the lift the sort of conventional way, it came and the doors opened.
Okay. And did you ask anybody else in your group of firefighters to try to operate the lift key, the fire lift key?
No, I don't think I did. Not from memory.
Can I just go back to one thing, which is the question of the key fob. I was trying to find a photograph for you just to see if we could prompt a recollection. Could you please be shown inquiry document 178? just to step out from the lift key. I'm going to come back to the lifts in a moment. I just want to show you something else. If you just enlarge that, that is a picture taken in the lobby with the incident commander taking something, it looks, from a male. And then in the next picture, which is INQ 179. Oh, he's been pixelated out. I'll have to do it by reference to what he's wearing. Do you think that was the gentleman that you got the fob key from? It's hard to tell.
I really can't remember.
All right. Now, going back to the question of lifts, then, if I can. You say you called it. Were you able to disable the lift and bring it under firefighter control?
No.
What were you expecting the lift to do if it had worked normally by use of the firefighter key you were trying to use?
First of all, you'd expect to feel a positive click with the key in the control box. That would indicate to me that it's switched over to fire lift mode. The reaction to the lift would be that normally on the display it would come up out of order or fire lift in operation. The lift would return to ground floor level and the doors would open. Right. That would be the normal reaction.
Do you know what a recall switch is?
No.
Okay. I'm given to understand that it's a key-operated switch external to the lift shaft at ground floor for use by the fire service, facility management, etc. Are you familiar with that
I can
function?
only think that's a different name for the fire control lift box that I'm referring to.
Right.
But I've never personally heard it called a recall lift.
Okay, well, that fire control box, was that present in this lift system?
Yes.
At Grenfell, it was. Did it work?
No.
Right. What about it did not work?
Well, it didn't operate anything. Didn't do it. It had no influence on the lift at all. It didn't do what it should do.
Right. Were you able to isolate the lifts so that they could not be used in the event of fire?
No.
What risks to residents would your inability to bring the lift under your sole control present?
Well, there's a few. It allows the lift to be used by anyone who wishes to use it, and the danger is they get in it and it stops and it feels like there's smoke and they're stuck unexpectedly. It also doesn't give us full control over it, so the normal procedure would be we would leave that lift at the bridgehead with the doors open, and if a casualty comes down we can put them straight in the lift and take it down. Because we're unable to secure it, the lift will be going up and down the building if people are calling it. So that's another risk to the residents because it would slow down their rescue effectively. Right.
What about what other risks might be presented? For example, to a resident who used the lift, which then opened on a floor higher in the building.
Yes, they might not be aware that there's a fire in progress, and they might pop down to the fourth floor to see a friend, and the doors will open, they'll be faced with a fire situation, and that's obviously extremely dangerous. We had no way of controlling that lift, so it's just free for anyone in the building to call it and use it.
Right. So when you discovered that the lift could not be brought under control by you in that way, did you tell anybody?
Yeah, I told my watch manager via my handheld radio.
And at the top of page 4, we see that. You say in your statement, I radioed to Watch Manager Dowden and informed him that the lift was not working, but that I was going to use it manually. He agreed with this. And then you go on to say it caused you concern, and why. Mm-hmm. Do you think you might have been able to disable the lift in any other way?
The only other way to disable the lift was to take the time to open the lift car doors and isolate the power to it, which is normal practice after we attend someone shutting a lift. We would isolate the lift so no one else can use it and consequently get stuck in it. But that would not be normal practice at an incident like this.
Would you think it was possible to do that at this incident?
It would have been possible, but yeah, of course, yeah, it would have been possible.
Right. Where would you need to go in order to do that? Could you do that from the lift car, or would you need to go to the lift plant?
Only by investigating where it is. Each lift installation is different,
right.
So you have to look for it. So it could be on the ground floor, there could be a lift motor room at the top of the building, or sometimes they're underneath and they can only be isolated from there, and sometimes they can only be isolated on top of the lift car, so it would need quite a lot of investigating to be able to do that. There's not a standard place where you can go to isolate it.
Oh, and what technical information did you have available to you on arrival at Grenfell Tower about these lifts and what functionality they had?
None.
And would that be, in your experience, would that be normal?
Yes, I wouldn't expect to walk into any building and find technical information on the lift operation. I'd expect to be able to find it if I went into the lift motor room. Sometimes you might have a pack from the maintenance company that will give you further information, testing schedules, stuff like that, but it's not really something we would necessarily get involved in or even look at.
If there had been a premises information box, well, sorry, was there a premises information box?
Not that I remember, no.
If there had been one, would that have been a source of information about the functionality of this lift?
Yeah, typically if there's a premises information box, the most information I would expect to find is that the fact that there is a fire lift and maybe the location of the control for that.
Right.
That would normally be as far as it goes.
And then in your statement, just going back to it, you say, when the lift arrived, this is the second paragraph, page 4, when the lift arrived, I got in it with 2 to 3 other firefighters and all the equipment such as hoses, breaking in gear, branches, first aid kit, BA board and a line bag. And then you said to the other firefighters to go to the second floor and meet us there. So who do you remember what got into the lift with you? Do you know?
I can't remember. I think so crew manager Batterby and Firefighter Brown, who had their BA sets on, they would have definitely got in. Whoever else, I think there was someone else, maybe 2 others,
right.
I can't remember.
Let's just see if we can piece this together. First of all, if you look please at CCTV bundle tab 11, which is IMQ 140. That's just it's a familiar angle. It's the lift lobby camera, which is C5.
Yeah.
I believe. And who is that going into the lift?
That's myself, just about to go in by the looks of it.
Yes, and then who have we got?
So that's Firefighter Badillo with the entry control board and the roller hose, and behind him is Firefighter Decent Orbin. That's crew manager Batterby, the other crew manager that's looking at me.
Yes.
And the other one looks like Firefighter Dorgu,
right,
who's got the breaking in the Halligan bar in his hand.
Right. And then, do you remember whether they all piled into the lift or some didn't?
I don't remember,
okay,
no.
It doesn't matter. And then if you look at the next picture, 141, this is inside the lift, not very roomy. Do you know who? Can you tell from that who was in there with you?
The only one I can possibly say is crew manager Batterby because of the rank markings on his helmet, but the others, no.
Because of the what?
Because of the rank marking on his helmet.
And what are those?
The 2 black stripes.
Right.
And that identifies him as the other crew manager, who I know is Charlie Batterby.
Okay.
And this one closest, it looks like he's got a breathing apparatus set on his back, possibly.
Right.
So that would have been Firefighter Brown.
That's helpful. So the 2 black parallel stripes, that's CM, is it?
Yes.
I see. Okay. And there, it looks like there may be 2. There's one on the right,
so
one on the
one's
left.
me and one's crew manager Batterby.
Right. That's helpful. And the next picture is somebody else looking like they're trying to go up. Who do you think that might be?
I believe that to be Firefighter Egan.
And then at the door...
Can I just ask, he seems to be carrying quite a bulky bag or box. Is that the... Well, can you tell us what it is?
Yeah, it's an IEC kit, so it's our first aid kit.
Right. Okay. And then as you came out of the lift, on the... which floor did the lift go to?
Second floor.
Second floor. And when you came out of it, do you remember what you did?
Started setting up the bridgehead.
Okay. I just want to show you a picture from CCTV camera 18, which is tab 17 in the CCTV bundle, picture 149. It's jumping ahead a little bit in time. It's timed at 010308. Can you just tell us what we can see in that picture?
Yeah, so looks like we've all got out of the lift. That piece of equipment in the lift door is what we call the enforcer, which is breaking in equipment. And someone's put that there on purpose to stop the lift going because we didn't have control over it. If they hadn't have put that there, the lift could have been called and subsequently all our equipment would have gone and we would have lost the lift. So that's been put there as a temporary measure to keep some sort of control over the lift.
Right. Who thought that up?
Whoever put it down.
Right. Is that something you would normally do if you couldn't get control of the lift? It's a standard operating procedure.
It's not a standard. No, it's
common sense.
It's common sense. It's good practice. Yeah.
Yes. Well,
that doesn't surprise me about the watch at work because they're all very experienced. So that someone's obviously thinking on their feet. Quite
yes. Yes. Okay. And did you come back for that material, or did you leave it there so that you could isolate the lift?
I believe they use the enforcer to gain entry later on into flat 16, but I don't know if it's that specific one. There's obviously more than one on the fire ground.
What else we got there on the picture?
Yes,
just like a branch, is it?
Yes, that's a branch.
And the two hoses?
2 lengths. Well, I think that's possibly 3 lengths of hose. That's a length of 70mm hose closest, and that looks like 1 or 2 lengths of 45mm hose. The long bar is called a Hanlon bar, which is breaking in equipment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Did you take all of that equipment out of the lift at the bridgehead floor?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember.
It occurs to me to ask you this: if it was an effective way of keeping the lift at that level, did it occur to you at the time to bring the lift under firefighter control by essentially stopping the lift going anywhere else, by leaving an object like an enforcer in the doorway?
No, it was... That's the first I'm aware that happened. You know, I was off carrying on with my role, and that's sort of...
Right. If in fact leaving a lift uncontrolled but freely available for residents to use was something that presented all the dangers you've described to us, did it occur to you to stop that lift, or immobilise that lift, by essentially leaving something like a Hanlon bar or it's like in the doorway to stop the doors closing?
No, it didn't. And although it would work to a point, it's certainly not something that I would rely on, because if I left that piece of equipment there thinking, right, this will disable the lift and make it safe, I would stop thinking about that lift. Someone picks it up and the lift goes and I haven't noticed, that's a problem. So there's not enough control over that for that. That's why it's not written down in policy, because it's such a uncontrolled way. Although what they've done there works.
Right.
It's got its downfalls in the fact that as soon as that's moved, the lift doors will shut and off it goes. And there's also more than one lift. There's 2 lifts. So it's a very temporary measure.
Yes, of course. And as you say, there are 2 lifts, not one.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, it's 4 o'clock, and I wonder whether now may be an appropriate moment to break. We're about to move on to a slightly different subject.
Yes, and you're going to have more questions, obviously.
I'm afraid I do, yes. I've probably got, just so the witness knows and you know, I've probably got half as much again as I've asked him this afternoon.
Yes. All right, thank you. Well, Mr. Secrett, we're going to stop there. I'm sorry I've got to ask you to come back again tomorrow.
That's okay.
What time are we going to start, Mr.
Chairman, I'm in your hands, but may I...
Well, you know how the timetable is running better than I do.
Yes, I do. Given where we've got to, may I suggest 9:30 and we'll be able to catch up a little bit of time?
Yes. Would that be inconvenient? 9:30?
No, I'm happy with any time.
All right. Well, then we'll start again at 9:30.
Okay.
Please don't talk to anyone about your evidence or the circumstances we're looking at.
I won't, no.
And we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
So you go with the usher now, please.
Thank you.
And we'll break now and resume at 9:30 tomorrow. I'm sorry about this succession of early starts, but I think it's the only way to get close to keeping up with our perhaps little ambitious timetable. Anyway, thank you all very much.